ceremony is going to start in a few minutes, so please have a nice seat and back to your position. Excellencies, distinguished guests, participants, ladies and gentlemen, Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. May peace be upon you. Ladies and gentlemen, we are so delighted to welcome you to the In-Depth talk about University of California, Berkeley seminar, which is currently being held in the Fakultas Farmasi Universitas Pancasila, Jakarta, Indonesia, also live streamed through Zoom meeting. The warmest greeting we also deliver to Dr. Matthew P. Sherburne as a speaker today, and to Professor George Anwar, who is currently attending the seminar through Zoom meeting. It's been a great honor for me, Andre Angelica, to be standing here and welcoming every one of you in this seminar. First of all, let's say thanks to one Almighty God who has been giving us guidance, happiness, health, and mercy, so we can attend and participate in this seminar without any obstacles. The seminar will provide good information for the participants who are currently considering to continue their education at some prestigious universities abroad. Therefore, today we have two incredible speakers from the University of California, Berkeley with us, who will enlighten you in making your decision for your educational journey onwards. Before we proceed with the program today, we would like to express our sincere gratitude to the Rector of Universitas Pancasila, Profesor Dr. Editut Hendratno, SH, M.Si, FCB ARB, the Dean of Faculty of Farmasi Universitas Pancasila, Profesor Dr. Apoteker Syamsuddin Magister Biomed, the sponsor of the seminar, Nucleus Pharma, and also to all speakers, moderator, participants, and all guests at this in-depth talk about University of California, Berkeley seminar. Ladies and gentlemen, please kindly allow me to read the rundown of our seminar today. 1. Opening ceremony. 2. Welcoming speech from the Dean of Faculty of Farmasi Universitas Pancasila. 3. Welcoming speech and opening remark from the Rector of Universitas Pancasila. 4. Welcoming speech from the seminar partner as well as sponsor from Nucleus Pharma. 5. Universitas Pancasila profile video. 6. Presentation from Dr. Matthew P. Sherburne and Professor George Anwar from the University of California, Berkeley. 7. Souvenir and certificate giving to the speakers, partner, and moderator. And 8. Closing ceremony. Excellencies, participants, ladies and gentlemen, before we proceed to the next agenda, I would like to invite all of you to stand up and sing the national anthem of Indonesia, Indonesia Raya, followed by the hymn of Universitas Pancasila. Ladies and gentlemen, we invite you to stand up. Ladies and gentlemen, you may be seated. This in-depth talk about University of California, Berkeley seminar is sponsored by Nucleus Pharma. Now, Excellencies, distinguished guests, participants, ladies and gentlemen, before we proceed to the next agenda, we are going to have a traditional dance performance called Tari Merak. Tari Merak is a traditional dance from West Java inspired by the life of Merak bird. In this performance, the dancers will show you the elegance of Merak's gesture, especially by the tail's feather, which is also shown in their costumes and movements. Ladies and gentlemen, Universitas Pancasila Faculty of Farmasi Student Art Unit M.Si proudly presents Tari Merak. Again, please give a round of big applause for our dancers. And now, ladies and gentlemen, with all due respect, we invite the Rector of Universitas Pancasila with Dr. Matthew and Vice Rectors, also with all the deans of the faculties, and also with all of distinguished guests to come forward to take a photo with our dancers. Now, Excellencies, distinguished guests, participants, ladies and gentlemen, before we get into the main event of this seminar, we are going to listen to the welcoming speech which will be delivered by the Dean of Faculty of Farmasi Universitas Pancasila. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome Profesor Dr. Apoteker Syamsuddin, Magister Biomed. The time is yours.
Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Om Swastiastu, Namo Buddhaya, Salam Kebajikan, Salam Pancasila. Honorable Director of Universitas Pancasila, Profesor Dr. Edith Hendratmo, SH, M.Si, FCRB. Vice Rector, Profesor Dr. Sri Widyastuti, Dr. Novianti, the Dean of Universitas Pancasila, Dean of Faculty of Business and Economic, Dr. Iha, Dean of Tourism, Dr. Revi, Dean of Faculty of Law, Professor Dr. Edi Pratomo, and Dean of Faculty of Engineering, Universitas Indonesia, Professor Dr. Heri Hermansyah, Honorable Professor Amin Subandrio, Professor Dr. Shirley Kumala, all students present here, Honorable Mr. Henry Komala, and Mr. Sucipto Kokadir, and Mr. Edward Basilianus from Nucleus Pharma, who sponsored this event. I welcome you all to this special event with Mark In-Dept to talk about University of California, Berkeley. We are extremely delighted to be the host for the morning and address you all. Before we carry on with the event, I would give my regard and appreciation to all the people who made this occasion a reality and this institution successful. This could not have been possible without the sheer contribution of you all. We all are part of his institution due to our shared passion for the mission for the institution, especially Faculty of Farmasi Universitas Pancasila. Hence, our mission is organizing and developing high-quality pharmacy education, organizing research and development of science and technology, especially in increasing the additional value of ingredients for drugs, cosmetic, functional food, and developing pharmaceutical formulation, conducting clinical and social pharmaceutical studies, the last but not the least. Implement and practice science and technology to empower the community in the health field. On the note, let me introduce and welcome the chief guest of this startlingly beautiful morning, Professor George Anwar and Dr. Matthew Sherburne, who are from very prestigious university in the world from USA, University of California, Berkeley, and have made significant impact for the research and education with their work. Thereby, hopefully, this beautiful morning will be a new chapter for the facility in strengthening and networking for the research in natural medicine, drug discovery and development, natural, cosmeceutical, nanomedicine, and clinical pharmacy. Without any further delay, I would like to start with the event. Thank you very much. Wassalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Thank you, Professor Dr. Apotheker Syamsuddin, Magister Biomed, for the welcoming speech. And now, ladies and gentlemen, we are going to listen to the welcoming speech which will be delivered by the Rector of Universitas Pancasila. And afterward, we would like to request the Rector to officially open the In-Dept talk about University California Berkeley seminar. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome Professor Dr. Editut Hendratno, SH, M.Si, FC, BRB. The time is yours.
Very good morning, everybody. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Honorable Dr. Matthew Sherburne, welcome to my university. Welcome to Jakarta. I believe that's better than Bandung and Bogor. Because just arrived from ITB and IPB, right? Why I mention this? Because my dean will give hospitality to you, whatever you want. Yang saya hormati Bapak Profesor Dr. Heri Hermansyah, ST. Pak Heri ada tadi? Oh ada. Pak Heri adalah Dekan Fakultas Teknik. Baru. Berapa bulan Pak? 6 bulan. Karena baru nggak kenalin saya. Gitu. Waktu beliau masih sekolah di Jepang untuk S3, saya wakil rektor di UI. Jadi nggak ketemu. Tapi sekarang udah ketemu di sini. Selamat Pak atas tugas baru. Di sini ada senior Bapak namanya Profesor Dr. Insinyur Muhammad Anis. Satu fakultas dengan Bapak. Masih ngajar juga di fakultas Pak, metalurgi. Ya. Dan saya harus nyapa juga Bapak Profesor Dr. Amin Subandrio, Bapak Dekan, Bapak Hendrianto Komala dari Nukleus Pharma, Bapak Cipto Kokadir juga dari Nukleus Pharma, Bapak Edward Basilianus, para wakil rektor, Ibu Sirli Kumala. Ibu Sirli Kumala was the dean of this faculty only 2 months ago. Pak Dekan, the new Dekan, replace Ibu Sirli Kumala. We hope you are healthy, most healthy. Yeah, dan I'm very glad that I can see you today. Proves that you are so healthy. Ya Bu ya. Among this guest math, there's also dean. The dean from Faculty of Law, Mr. Professor Dr. Edi Pratomo. Pak Edi, would you please stand up, Pak? Gitu. Nah, this one is he was the ambassador to German. So if he has to give speech, maybe in German language. Yeah. I welcome to all of you to Universitas Pancasila, Jakarta. We are very delighted to have you at our pharmacy faculty here in University Pancasila. University Pancasila was built 56 years ago by very important, let's say, well-known people. Now in the foundation. Jadi above the rector, there is a foundation. And to be frank, Barkeley, your university, is very famous in this country. Why? In the Suharto era, most of the minister is graduated from your school in University California, Barkeley. So you are not so strange here, because you have also named Barkeley. Matthew from Barkeley. Tadi saya bisik dia, mau nggak foto sama penari-penari? Dia bilang mau, katanya. Di sana nggak ada, katanya. Jadi itu tadi oleh-oleh yang paling berharga buat dia pulang ke Amerika adalah foto dengan para dancer gitu. I just mentioned to everybody that I was asking you to take picture with the dancers, and you agree. You agree. Yeah. This is the most valuable gift from Jakarta to you, to show to your colleague, but not your wife. Currently under the guidance and care of very important academic scientists and thinkers in Indonesia. This faculty accredited A, the most top value. Yeah. So you came in the right place and right time. The pharmacy faculty, along with the other faculties in Universitas Pancasila, is accredited A, which is the highest grade on how one could get for a private university. We had to go through a rigorous assessment process to achieve this accreditation. Dia sekolahnya di California. Seingat saya tahun 90 jalan-jalan ke California. Saya cerita pada dia. California itu indah sekali. Dia tanya, California kemana? Saya bilang, Pebble Beach. Pebble Beach adalah lapangan golf yang terindah di dunia. Jadi kalau kita ke sana olahraga, waktu itu tahun 90 saya udah belajar main golf, Pak Edi. Saya belajar doang sampai sekarang. Jadi kalau main di sana karena laut, sebelahnya laut, itu kita sebelum mau mukul pakai topi itu topinya harus dipegang. Kalau enggak kabur topinya. I told them that if I play golf in Pebble Beach, I have to hold my head because if not, my head will be fly away. You know that place, right? We are very happy that we are able to form a mutual agreement and to work together with the prestigious University of California from Barkeley. Hadirin, tadi pagi I have already signed the MOU with Barkeley. Yang belum sign adalah dari pihak Barkeley-nya. Ya, jadi nanti itu dibawa ke sana untuk di-sign. It's very honor for us, Mr. Matthew, if your president also agree to sign. If necessary, I don't mind. I have to go to California to pick up the MOU. Yeah, modus. We pride ourselves as one of the best pharmacy faculties in Indonesia that specialize in Indonesia traditional herbal pharmacology. Our country has abundant natural resources, each with its own strengths and with unique philosophy we inherited from our ancestors. Our geography, tropical climate, and our volcanic soil gives us a very rich flora with many herbs and plants that have a beneficial effect on human being. I have so many, but you don't have at all, so you need me. Don't worry, we are friends from today. I am convinced that we can all expand our knowledge from learning from each other, strength and uniqueness. We welcome you to enjoy Indonesian hospitality in our university in Jakarta, Indonesia. That's all. So do I have to open this? Yeah. The M.Si asked me to open this meeting. So now I declare that this meeting will open. Thank you very much.
Once again, thank you, Professor Dr. Editut Hendratno, SH, M.Si, FCB, ARB, for the welcoming speech and opening remark. And last but not least, ladies and gentlemen, this seminar could never be held without the support from our partner, Nucleus Pharma. Thus, we are also going to listen to the welcoming speech by the Board Director of Nucleus Pharma. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome Bapak Hendrianto Komala. The time is yours.
Good morning. Thank you for having me here. Rector, Professor Edi from Universitas Pancasila, Vice Rector, Professor Sri, Vice Rector, Professor Novi, Vice Rector, Professor Joko, Vice Rector, Professor Ardi Putri, and also Head of Innovation, Professor Amin, and special guests from Universitas of Indonesia, Professor Harry, the Dean of Engineering, and all the deans present here today. I think we have Professor George joining from the Zoom or not. So good morning, everyone, and good evening for Professor George in California there. Thank you again, Rector Professor Eddie and the teams, Professor Shams, Professor Sherburne, Professor George, for making this event possible. My name is Henry Komala, and I am an alumni of UC Berkeley. I took mechanical engineering and graduated in 1987. Then I took my MBA in finance at NYU after that. I am currently the commissioner of Nucleus Pharma. It is a startup company focusing on natural pharmaceutical. It is a company that we together manage with Cipto Kokadir, present there, which is also an alumni of UC Berkeley, and also Edward Basilianus, present here also, who is actually a long-time pharmaceutical expert, more than 30 years in the field. He is actually also a PhD candidate at this University of Pancasila. Currently, Nucleus Pharma has extensive research and development program with University of Pancasila, and this is led by Professor Sham and Gristi for the development of some breakthrough innovations in natural medicine. It's a breakthrough innovations in natural medicine. We really thank you for the research opportunity and the cooperations with the University of Pancasila, as well as with BRIN and LIPI, basically, so that these innovations can actually happen in Indonesia by Indonesian scientists from Indonesian raw materials and for the benefits of Indonesian consumers and possibly even the worldwide. This event is a good opportunity for the Indonesian students to learn more about studying at the UC Berkeley. But also at the same time, this is the beginning of a possible cooperations between University of Pancasila and UCB in research and development. It could also be a transfer of exchange of students or faculty. It could also be some short courses for post-undergraduate and graduate students. Maybe even some, maybe professors or lecturers visiting to these universities and so on. So there are various possibilities that UC Berkeley can actually explore with Pancasila. I have been given a tremendous opportunity to be able to study abroad at UC Berkeley. And I hope more and more Indonesian students are able to have the same opportunity. And we all can contribute to the betterment of this country. I hope this session will be very useful for many of us. And thank you for spending the time for this event. Thank you.
Thank you once again, Bapak Hendrianto Komala. Ladies and gentlemen, before we proceed to the main agenda, with all due respect, we would like to invite the Rector of Universitas Pancasila, the Dean of Faculty of Farmasi Universitas Pancasila, and also to all deans of the faculties in Universitas Pancasila, along with the Board Director of Nucleus Pharma, and all distinguished guests to come forward to have the photo session together. Thank you, everyone. You may be seated. Thank you for all of the distinguished guests for attending this event. And ladies and gentlemen, in a few minutes, we are going to continue our meeting to the next agenda. Ladies and gentlemen, now after some brief remarks, we are going to present a profile video of the host of today's seminar, Universitas Pancasila profile video. Ladies and gentlemen, please enjoy.
Universitas Pancasila, universitas unggul dan terkemuka berlandaskan nilai-nilai luhur Pancasila. Kampus yang hijau, nyaman dan strategis. Dengan kemudahan akses dari berbagai pilihan moda transportasi, jaringan komuter lain memberikan alternatif transportasi menuju kampus yang cepat, murah, dan nyaman. Suasana kampus yang asri, kondusif untuk menggali ilmu, bersosialisasi, dan menambah pengetahuan. Universitas Pancasila dalam proses pendidikannya menjalankan kegiatan akademik yang bermutu berdasarkan nilai-nilai luhur Pancasila serta ikut berperan aktif di dalam mengembangkan ilmu pengetahuan, teknologi, seni yang unggul, dan berwawasan lingkungan dalam rangka meningkatkan kemandirian bangsa dan memberikan layanan pada masyarakat dalam upaya meningkatkan kesejahteraan masyarakat dan daya saing UKM. Di dalam kegiatan akademik, Universitas Pancasila menyelenggarakan program vokasi, program sarjana, program profesi, program magister, dan program doktor yang tersebar di 7 fakultas dan sekolah pasca sarjana. Untuk program vokasi, Universitas Pancasila memiliki program studi D3 Akuntansi dan Perpajakan di Fakultas Ekonomi dan Bisnis, program studi D3 Pemasaran dan Distribusi di Fakultas Farmasi, program studi D3 Teknik Elektro, Teknik Mesin di Fakultas Teknik. Untuk program sarjana, Universitas Pancasila memiliki program studi S1 Manajemen dan Akuntansi di Fakultas Ekonomi dan Bisnis, program studi S1 Farmasi di Fakultas Farmasi, program studi S1 Teknik Arsitektur, Teknik Elektro, Teknik Informatika, Teknik Sipil, Teknik Mesin, dan Teknik Industri di Fakultas Teknik. Program studi S1 Ilmu Hukum di Fakultas Hukum, program studi S1 Ilmu Komunikasi di Fakultas Ilmu Komunikasi, program studi S1 Psikologi di Fakultas Psikologi, program studi S1 Pariwisata di Fakultas Pariwisata. Untuk program profesi, Universitas Pancasila memiliki program profesi apoteker. Untuk program magister, Universitas Pancasila memiliki program studi S2 Magister Manajemen dan Akuntansi, program studi S2 Magister Ilmu Kefarmasian, program studi S2 Magister Teknik Mesin, program studi S2 Magister Ilmu Hukum dan Kenotariatan. Untuk program doktor, Universitas Pancasila memiliki program studi S3 Doktor Ilmu Ekonomi dan Doktor Ilmu Farmasi. Sebagai salah satu bentuk implementasi Tridharma perguruan tinggi, Universitas Pancasila berperan aktif dalam berbagai penelitian dan kegiatan sosial, bermasyarakat, dan berpancasila. Kegiatan pengabdian pada masyarakat melibatkan dosen dan mahasiswa secara aktif dalam mendharma baktikan ilmunya sebagai bentuk kepedulian meningkatkan kesejahteraan masyarakat. Selain kegiatan akademis, Universitas Pancasila juga memberikan ruang untuk berbagai kegiatan non-akademis yang mendukung peningkatan soft skill mahasiswa. Melalui beragam unit kegiatan mahasiswa, para mahasiswa dapat memilih kegiatan yang diminatinya. Dengan keseriusan para mahasiswa, Unit kegiatan mahasiswa ini seringkali mendulang prestasi di bidangnya baik di tingkat regional, nasional, maupun internasional. Universitas Pancasila memiliki dua kampus yang berlokasi sangat strategis di Jakarta Selatan dan Jakarta Pusat. Untuk program vokasi, sarjana dan profesi baik kelas reguler maupun reguler khusus berlokasi di Srengseng Sawah, Jagakarsa, Jakarta Selatan. Dan untuk program magister dan doktor berlokasi di Jalan Borobudur nomor 7, Jakarta Pusat. Universitas Pancasila, a place to create your success.
Now, ladies and gentlemen, we are continuing our seminar to the next agenda, which is likely to hear the presentation, which will be delivered by Dr. Matthew P. Sherburne and Professor George Anwar from University of California, Berkeley. This session will be moderated by Dr. rer.nat Apoteker Deni Rahmat, Magister Science from Fakultas Farmasi Universitas Pancasila. First of all, please kindly allow me to introduce our moderator, CV. Dr. rer.nat Apoteker Deni Rahmat, Magister Science, is a lecturer from Faculty of Farmasi Universitas Pancasila who was born in Garut, 27 December 1978. He was graduated as a Bachelor of Pharmacy at Institut Teknologi Bandung in year 2002, Master of Technological Pharmacy at Institut Teknologi Bandung in 2006, and also for doctoral and postdoc of Technology Modification Cyclodextrin in Innsbruck University in year 2013. Dr. rer.nat Apoteker Deni Rahmat, Magister Science, has a few professional experience as doctoral researcher from 2009 until 2011, and also a consultant of injection formulation and stem cells products from the year 2017 until right now. He has lots of researches, national and international publications and awards, and Dr. rer.nat Apoteker Deni Rahmat, Magister Science, also became oral presenters in a lot of regional and national seminars, and also he became the invited speakers in lots of seminars and trainings. So ladies and gentlemen, without any further ado, please welcome Dr. rer.nat Apoteker Deni Rahmat, Magister Science. The time is yours.
Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Good morning. Thank you very much for coming. Director, all the deans, vice deans, academic staffs, and the college. Also the special guest and the incredible speaker. And here, of course, my student. Thank you so much. So it's a great honor for me as moderator for this big event, In-Dept talk about University of California, Berkeley. We have right now two incredible speakers, Dr. Matthew Sherburne and Professor George Anwar from very prestigious university, of course, University of California, Berkeley, where we can find many Nobel Prize awardees. I invite Dr. Matthew Sherburne to come forward, join with me. Yes, please. Thank you so much. So, and we have also Prof. George Anwar online on Zoom platform. Yes, Prof. George Anwar. Okay.
Yeah, I'm here.
Okay, nice to meet you. Can you hear me?
Good morning.
good morning for Indonesia time. Yes, thank you.
Yeah. Good
Okay.
evening here.
Next, okay.
Hey, Matt.
Hey, George. Haha, I'm in Indonesia and you're not.
Okay.
I know. I know.
Okay, fine. Really, okay. Well, very nice of you.
Yeah, the Indonesian guy's still in California and the white guy's in Indonesia.
You flip the situation. Okay. Wow. Yeah, great. Yeah, it's like rare situation. Okay. Uh, Therefore, we have two kind participants, of course, online and offline ones. For online participants, you can just drop the question in the chat during the presentation, of course. Yeah, and for uh, and for the offline participant, my student here in this room, you can directly ask the question to the speakers, of course, right after the presentation. Yeah, and please mention your name, institution, and to whom you address the question to. All right. Before we start the presentation, I would like to read the curriculum vitae of the incredible speakers. So I will go first for Dr. Matthew Sherburne. Am I right to name your name? Yeah, it's okay. Yeah? Okay. Dr. Matthew Sherburne, uh, he finished his bachelor degree at UC Berkeley, of course, yeah, in material science and engineering, and also in mechanical engineering with minor in theoretical and applied mechanics, yeah. Research, precipitation, hardening in allies. And also, he finished his master degree at the same university at in here about material science and mineral engineering, and also research dislocation dynamic in VCC metals. And for PhD, yeah, at the same university in material science and engineering in research material approaching their ideal strength. After receiving his PhD, he accepted a position in the material science and engineering department at University of Illinois Urbana-Champaign. While at UIUC, he was one of the founder of the MarkLab 3D printing center, which is designed to promote interaction between students of different academic programs and teach the fundamental of the design process. He published an e-textbook on Introduction to Material Science Laboratory and is currently developing online sources. In 2014, moved back to University of California at Berkeley to become the program director of the Singapore Berkeley Research Initiative for Sustainable Energy, SINBRISE. In this role, he lived in Singapore to oversee the day-to-day operation of the research center. His research has focused on material for energy, sustainability application, and apply computational techniques to arrive at fundamental understanding of material properties, leading to the ability to intelligently design material. He have many experience as director, lecturer, and of course as scientist. And he hold many publications. One of them is investigation, the role of copper oxide in electrochemical carbon dioxide reduction in real time. He achieved various awards such as Outstanding Advisor Awards and Excellent in Teaching. And for the second speaker, I have here Prof. George Anwar. Yeah, okay. You can see here, Prof. George Anwar graduated from University of California, Berkeley on May 1991 in PhD Mechanical Engineering Dynamic and Control. At University of California, Berkeley on December 1987 in Master Degree Mechanical Engineering Dynamic and Control at the same university for his bachelor degree in Mechanical and Nuclear Engineering. He got many experience as co-founder and also president, and at California, Berkeley as a lecturer at San Francisco State University. Also, he has a skill in control system analysis and design, robotic design, real-time programming in C, LabVIEW, FPGA, and LabVIEW embedded. And also, as a student organization advisor, one of them at UC Berkeley Hyperloop team. He performed many research and projects. One of them is developing and designing hardware and software system for microfluid-based CTC detection system. Also, he published many publications in various journals, such as Node for Sensing, a robust high dynamic range method for detection biological species. He achieved many awards as outstanding graduate student instructor and also outstanding undergraduate, and also he got many patents. All right. For the person, I think Dr. Matthew Sherburne will go first for the presentation, and then Prof. George Anwar will add some information, yeah, about regarding to your presentation later on. Okay? Thank you so much. Time is yours, Dr. Dr. Matthew.
Okay, so first, I would like to thank everybody for organizing this and having me here. It's an honor to be here. I am thrilled to be in Indonesia. And I have one complaint, though. The organizing committee brought in the talented and beautiful traditional dancers, and I don't know that I can live up to that standard. I think you're all going to find me much more boring than them. So, just for background, in January 2020, I became the Director of International Partnerships for the College of Engineering. I teach and do research in the Material Science and Engineering department, and my first meeting with the dean, she asked me, what do you want to do with Globe and as Director of Partnerships for the college? The college had traditionally been focused on China, and China to the exclusion of other countries. As was pointed out, I spent time in Singapore running our Sustainable Energy Research Center, and for over 6 years, I would spend 8 months a year in Singapore, and I had a research program on clean water with the Philippines. And so I had a clear idea. I wanted to keep the programs going we had in Singapore, revive the program in Singapore that COVID kind of killed off, and then I wanted to have a bigger footprint in ASEAN nations, and the obvious choice is Indonesia. And so she was like, okay, great. And this is where, thankfully, I have George Anwar in the mechanical engineering department, who without him, I don't think I would be here for this visit or giving this talk to you. And so I'll point out later in my talk how we have a program with UE, and we would not have that program without George. And George is actually the director of this engagement. And so I may be here, but the reason I'm here is because of George. And so I guess we can throw my slides back up. I'll start on the talk now. So this is kind of a wide-ranging talk. I met with folks and discussed my talk on Sunday. And so I tried to morph it into something that might be interesting to pharmacy students, which is not my area, but we have people that do work in that area. And so I'm going to give you an outline of University of California, an outline of the College of Engineering, narrow that down into material science, and then show you some research highlights, and then show you some of our international engagement and opportunities that you might be able to take advantage of. I broke the system. So the university, oh, okay, great. Yeah, so introduction to the system. If we go, so I probably don't have enough cards for everybody, but if you take down or take a picture, or the committee is free to share my email address. It's on the first slide, just mpsherb@Barkeley, and I will do my best to respond to any and all questions you may have down the line. So next slide. So the University of California system is composed of 10 universities, and you can see them highlighted there in the middle. Berkeley is the oldest. There's University of California, San Francisco, which is a medical school, which originally was founded by, there we go. Okay, so let's see. Okay. Okay, so I got a pointer. So go ahead and go to the next slide. I should have a small pop-up here. So I'm sitting here, right, School of Pharmacy, right? We don't have a medical school. And so if you look, the medical schools, UC San Francisco is just a medical school. They don't have engineering or anything else. It is only medicine. But then UCLA, UC Davis, UC Irvine, UC Riverside, and UC San Diego are all full service universities, meaning they have engineering and humanities, but they also have a medical school. So in some sense, this leaves Berkeley at a disadvantage. But so what we've done is we've partnered with UC San Francisco. We have joint master's programs, joint PhD programs, PhD MD programs. And so they have kind of become our medical school. Also very near campus, we have Oakland's Children's Hospital that we work closely with. So Berkeley's the oldest and one of the top ones that does not, actually we are the top one, but we don't have a medical school. So I will show you how people do some work on medical related issues. Next slide. And I'll probably try and pick up the pace here. So UC Berkeley, just to give you a background on what UC Berkeley is, right? What it was founded in, the late 1800s. There are 14 colleges and schools, 170 departments, right? Or interdisciplinary research units. 48 out of the 52 doctoral programs we have are top 10. We have 8 current Nobel Prize winners. If you sum up our current, our past, and those that got their education from us and went on, we have roughly our hands in about 60 Nobel Prizes, 3 Turing Awards, 3 Fields Medals. And so what this tells you is we are a research institution and we are driven by research. So everybody is doing research, and where that shows up is last year our research expenditures just for the Berkeley campus just topped $1 billion, right? So $1.05 billion was expended on research by us last year. And then we have about roughly 31,000 undergrads and roughly 13,000 graduate students. And all of that fits onto 72 hectares, right? So we're a fairly confined space. Next slide. So this is just, I have an office in here. This is the College of Engineering Administration building. So now I'll take you kind of into the College of Engineering. So next slide. Great. So the table here, you can look at the departments in general are very highly ranked for both undergraduate education and graduate education. We take our undergraduate education very seriously. It is the faculty that teach, right? Grad students and whatnot don't teach. It is us that teach. I guess the highlights here are for the College of Engineering, US News ranks us #2 in all of engineering, just behind MIT. For graduate programs, we're #3. Again, MIT and Stanford, the two big private universities, are ahead of us. We're a public, so that also handicaps us a little. The one I really like is the global engineering programs. If you stack us up against all the engineering programs around the world, we come out #7. And that's a study from the Times of London. And so UC Berkeley has more science and engineering PhD graduates than any other university in the US. We train lots and lots of PhDs. Next slide. Yeah, so we can go. Yeah, that's okay. Let it run. Go all the way. So now I'm going to take you into the material science department because I was told there was some interest in material science here. The material science department is actually the 3rd oldest department on campus. There was mechanical arts, which is really mechanical engineering. There was civil engineering. And then Phoebe Aberson-Hearst donated the money to build this building, which is the Hearst Memorial Mining Building. And so material science, actually, if you go to the back corner here, we actually have a mine shaft back into the hillside. So it started out mining, it became mining and metallurgy, then it became metallurgy and mineral engineering, then it became material science and mineral engineering, and then it finally became material science and engineering. So we trace our roots back to literally the founding of the school. So next slide. So at some point we deviated away from mining and mineral engineering, and so these are our faculty that teach in the department. Some of these folks will come up later, such as Kevin Healy and Professor Messersmith, who they have a 50% appointment in material science and a 50% appointment in bio-E. We have people like Andy Miner, who have a 50% appointment in the material science department, but they have a 50% appointment at Lawrence Berkeley National Lab. So one of the great things about Berkeley, and you'll see this, I think, on the next slide, is we have the campus, but we also, right behind the campus, we have Lawrence Berkeley National Lab, which is funded by the Department of Energy and has lots of resources for us to take advantage of. And so Andy Miner is the director of the National Center for Electron Microscopy. Mark Asta is the director of the Material Science Division. Kristen Pershawn is the director of the Molecular Foundry. And then I, of course, am director of international partnerships. So the Material Science Department has a large footprint at the National Lab. And so on average, these folks that you see here spend about $1 million a year each on research. It's just over for the department. And so there's lots of research, and I'll show you some of this coming up. These are just awards. Don't get too worried about them. Some are national academies, some are presidential awards. This would be typical of any of the departments at Berkeley. Okay, so next slide. Okay, so this is our resources. So this is our clean room, nanofabrication facility. We have a whole facility on materials characterization. So this is Peter Hoseman and Andy Miner sitting at our new SEM that has the ability to implant light atoms, so we can study their effect on materials and damage. These are resources up at the Lawrence Berkeley National Lab. And this is a picture taken from Lawrence Berkeley Lab, and all the buildings you see down here are actually campus. So it's like a 10-minute shuttle ride up the hill to get to these facilities of, this is our advanced light source, where lots of people that work on polymers and soft matter and biological systems can characterize their materials. I run on this. This is one of the supercomputing facilities that the Department of Energy funds that we can get access to. This is one of the team microscopes that has sub-angstrom resolution, right? So they're actually imaging atoms now. And then this is the molecular foundry, which is a user facility. So one of the things I wanted to point out, all of these down here, and particularly the light source, NSEM, and the molecular foundry, they are all user facilities. You could come use them. There's a proposal process. You can write a proposal. You can get granted time, and you can come to Berkeley, and if you need TEM facilities or a light source to characterize what you're working on experimentally, or the facilities at the molecular foundry, which they really focus on making nanostructures and being really clever at the small length scales. And if you get granted time, say at NSEM on a TEM microscope, the time doesn't cost you anything. It's free. And so my collaborators in the Philippines, we have written proposals, and their students have come and used TEMs and other facilities at the lab. And then, of course, I get them access to anything they need on campus. So if you're doing something and you find that you need access to facilities, you might look at Lawrence Berkeley Lab. It is designed to be non-classified, and it is designed to have user facilities that anybody throughout the world can come use, and there's no charge for coming and using them, or at least minimal charge maybe. Next slide. And go ahead and hit the next one. So it should pop up. So here, there's a website you can go look at the 5,000 most cited scientists on Earth. Number one is a doctor from Harvard, right? Medical people tend to get very highly cited. But if you look, Peidong Yang is a professor in chemistry and material science. He's number 115 overall. Paul Alvasados is like 237. Unfortunately, Paul has now left to become president of University of Chicago. And I got some very sad news today, literally this morning. Professor Ramesh, who is consistently mentioned as a potential winner for the next Nobel Prize in Physics, just accepted a job and will be leaving the material science department to become vice president at Rice University. You'll see Gerd later. I have Jennifer here. She is not associated with the material science and engineering department. I put her here as perspective because some of you may be aware of CRISPR, Jennifer's the one that won the Nobel Prize recently for her work on discovering CRISPR, right? Gene editing and all of that. Then we have Rob Ritchie, who you'll see a little later. I don't know what happened to Jill's tag here, but Jill Banfield is a professor in Earth and Planetary Sciences. She works on minerals and understanding minerals, and she's also a professor of material science. Ali Javi's about to become a professor of material science. He's a professor in electrical engineer. And then again, Loddick and Joel, I work with both of them. I publish with both of them. They're staff scientists up at LBL. So this is another advantage that we have. We can make people like Vladik and Joel adjunct professors, and they come teach classes in their specialty. And then they advise our grad students and our undergrads on their research. So having the national lab next door to us is a huge benefit to us and then everybody we really collaborate with or would like to work with us. Next slide. Okay, so the next few slides are all about research, and this one isn't maybe so particular to you, but I put it here because one of the hats I wear in the material science department is I've been on the admissions committee for 7 years. I've been chair of it, or well, co-chair of it for the last 3 years. And so this is Professor Peidong Yang. But if you look up here in this corner, this Arfin did his undergraduate degree at ITB. And so we, as co-chair, myself and Gerd Sater, made the case that if you looked at his package, he had everything we would want to admit. So if you're interested about applying to grad school, I've been doing this a long time. I can tell you what you should have in your package to get admitted. And I'm happy to, I would actually be happy to hold an information session for everybody that would be interested. And so Gerd and I made a case to admit Arfin, even though ITB in Indonesia is not a traditional feeder for our program. We made the argument that if we only take students from MIT, Stanford, and what have you, we're being snobs, right? And so he has come in, and if you remember, Peidong Yang was like, that's kind of why I had the slides earlier, or the one slide. Peidong Yang, is, you look at research output, is number 115 in the world. And so he does a lot on trying to do, well, he does solar energy like me, catalysts like me, and trying to do carbon dioxide plus some water plus some sunlight, right, to get fuels to generate pharmaceuticals, right, commodity chemicals. And so that's what Arfin's doing. Next slide. The same year we admitted Arfin, we admitted Bernardus, who was also a student from ITB. Oh, sorry, next slide. And so there's Bernardus. He's working with Gerd. And if you think back, Gerd was somewhere around the 720th most successful scientist on Earth, at least by one metric. And so what Bernardus is looking at is AI-driven synthesis of new materials. And so they've gotten access to all of the backlog of papers from Nature, all of the backlogs from Science. They've written AI to extract all of the information from these papers about processing materials. And so then they do the AI, they try and figure out how to process a new material that's never been made before, and right, they kind of rinse and repeat. This is all done. They have essentially half a floor in a building up at Lawrence Berkeley Lab where you tell the robots what to do. You don't have to go in, and the robots try and synthesize everything for you. And all of this is guided from AI, pulling as much processing information from journals as possible. Next. So this is one that should be more interesting to you. This is Kevin Healy. He is a professor in material science, professor in bioengineering. And so I just kind of pulled a couple things. This is his lab on a chip. And he focuses on heart and liver tissue. And what this does is he combines this with the imaging technology so you can test drugs. There, I forget the number, but there's, I don't know, let's just say there's 100 individual cells. Well, I should say individual wells on that chip. Then in each one of those wells, he can place, or his team can place, stem cells that have become heart tissue or stem cells that have become liver tissue. And then you can take that and put that in the imaging system and image this over long times to see how a prospective drug affects heart tissue and affects lung tissue or liver tissue. And so that's one area of his research. Another area of his research is regenerative medicine, and he does polymer scaffolding. And they've shown that with the polymer scaffolding, where it used to be thought that when the heart was damaged, it was damaged, they can inject the polymer scaffolding into the heart, and the heart can actually heal itself. And they've done this, you probably can't see this so well, but there's actually a hole in this top one, and by the end of this, the hole has healed over. And so while we're material scientists, right, we view the body as a material. And so Kevin works in this space. Next slide. So the next one is Phil Messersmith, and I'll try and go faster. I know I'm slowing. So Phil works on a lot on regenerative medicine, and he has studied muscles. And the polymers, the muscles extrude to stay attached to the rocks. And they've been able to mimic this. And where this is, there are many places this will be useful. Perhaps the most surprising is in vivo surgery on babies before they're born. I think I said that right, in vivo. When the baby is still inside the mother, you cannot stitch up the tissue. It's too soft and supple. And so the adhesive that Phil's group has generated is used for that application. And this came from studying muscles. So if you go into Phil's lab, he has tanks of different muscles. Whenever I'm hungry, I just want to go down and grab some. And so he works on polymers, soft matters, hydrogels. He looks at coatings for biosystems so they don't foul, right? And so he does lots of stuff in that space. Next slide. I think the next one is Ting's work. And I think this will be really interesting to you. Yeah, so this is Ting's work. Again, all three of these I have nothing to do with. It's not my area of research, but I think it's interesting to you, so I'm showing it. So Ting is an expert on polymers and soft matter. She, early in her career, she did a lot about how to make polymers form the structures that you want. Well, she got very, very good at this, and then she was able to develop polymer spheres, nanospheres, that would then encapsulate a drug as they were forming. And so you have these nanospheres that are essentially carriers for the drug that you want to deliver. And next slide. So you can see images of them here. You can image them in the body. You can attach different fluorescent molecules to them or what have you, so you can see them in the body. Next slide. And what's interesting, she has shown that with her system, you can reduce off-site toxicity. And if you look at this slide up here, blue or black means they don't detect the nanospheres in that part of the body. If you look red means you detect the nanospheres that are laden with the drug. Well, down here at the bottom, these two out here on the edges, those are the tumors. And you can see that the tumors are loaded with red. That means they're loaded with these nanospheres that are loaded with the drug. Where if you look at the heart, the liver, and the different kidneys, you see that the polymers aren't there. Next slide. Sorry, I'll pick up the pace. I think I'm going way too slow. So Jay Kiesling is not a professor in material science, but after our conversation Sunday, he's a professor in chemical engineering. One of the things he's done is devised a way to turn E. coli into an engine to generate what you want. And so they have used E. coli and other things to essentially generate the precursor for malaria treatment. And they have partnered with several companies to do this and scale it up. And so from his work, at least, this is outdated, but at least 51 million malaria treatments have been generated from using E. coli to generate the precursor for malaria treatment. He also has teams out in the Amazon forest where they spread things out in the Amazon forest to attract enzymes. They pick up leaves and other things from there to try and understand the enzymes in the Amazon forest that might be used for medical applications. So I think Jay is very much in line with what you do and what I was told on Sunday. So next slide. Mechanical properties you don't think of as being maybe important in the body, but it turns out if you looked at Rob Ritchie, who was on that list of highly cited people, they have used the facilities up at NSEM to look at how vitamin D deficiency affects bones. They have used the same method to look at how treatments for osteoporosis affect the bones, affect failure of the bones. He has also looked at how different drugs, diseases, and whatnot affect the elasticity and failure of skin, right? So even structural properties can be thought of in a health manner. Next slide. So this is my work and Jaime Zhang's work. The interesting thing here is the top row here is Jaime's work. She's an expert on TEM, and she does what's called liquid cell TEM. And so she can image living things, but in this case, she has imaged the growth of a platinum nanoparticle that one would use as a catalyst. And over here is I'm a computational person, is my computational work and my group's computational work to study, in particular, this was how we could make glucose. And so we can study all the energy paths. Linking with Jaime, we can study what the structure should be, and we can get a complete picture. Next slide. This is electronic properties, so we'll skip it. Go ahead and go to the next slide. So globe. So go ahead and go to the next slide. This is the international effort for the College of Engineering. We have multiple aspects to this. So go ahead and go to the next slide. Next slide. Just keep going. Yeah, go ahead. Go ahead. Go ahead. Go ahead. Okay. The point of this slide is we have lots of student exchange. And so from all of these different countries and institutions, students come to Berkeley, and undergraduate students come to spend a semester or a year at Berkeley. And most of them get into a research group at Berkeley. And so we have visiting scholar program, which is relevant here, and I'll bring up in a minute. So next slide. So these are all programs that we are in the process of developing. So again, all throughout the world. Next slide. Let's get to the good one. Sorry, next slide. Here we go. So on June 24th, what you're looking at here in the big picture is the rector for University of Indonesia, the dean of the College of Engineering of University of Indonesia that was here a few minutes ago, well, a little bit ago, and Pak Prabaya from LPS, who's funding this program, and that's my boss, the dean, Sujay King Liu. We hosted everybody there because we were signing an agreement. And in the next week, 3 scholars from Indonesia are going to be coming to Berkeley, and go ahead and this is the vice chancellor meeting the rector, and then during the session, if you don't know, Berkeley has somewhere between 80 or 90 Indonesian students that are there for their undergraduate degree. We got some of them to come in and present the research that they're working on. Next slide. So the 3 scholars are going to come, right? So these are the 3 scholars. These are the professors they work with at University of Indonesia. And what they did was University of Indonesia identified potential collaborators. They came, I had those collaborators and others that might be of interest give presentations to everyone from Indonesia so they could see kind of the breadth of the research. And so we have, sorry, let me look here. Oh yeah, so there's Steve Conley. He's an expert and has incredibly novel and inventive approaches to bioimaging. And so the student is going to come, embed in Steve's group for a year, work, and then our hope is that when they come back to Indonesia, into the group here, there'll continue to be a collaboration between the faculty in Indonesia and Steve. Sunwook Lee is a professor in bioengineering. He does nanostructures, a lot of things with viruses. And so the student will come and work in Sunwook's lab, and again, hopefully come back, and there'll be a long collaboration between the faculty at University of Indonesia and the faculty at Berkeley. And then Daniel Kamen is an expert on energy. And so the student is actually going to come and work in Dan's lab, attempting to model energy usage, consumption in all of Indonesia, and how that might be optimized and better utilized. So they will be leaving, they will be leaving, I think this week or next week at the latest. We've got all the visa stuff done. And so they will be coming to Berkeley and spending a year, and LPS is going to be funding this. Next slide. So large-scale research centers, one of my jobs is to help us develop large-scale research centers. I was at ITB yesterday. I'm in the process of putting together a team to develop a advanced or additive manufacturing research center in Singapore. And it looks like there are people at ITB that might be able to collaborate with us on this. And so then next slide. We won't worry about that. I think that's it. Oh, okay. We're also, right, so I should have remembered this. We are partnering with KAIST in Korea to attempt to apply AI to systems and semiconductors, quantum security and computing, aerospace, and advanced nuclear reactors. We just signed a 99-year lease on this whole facility is a NASA research facility, NASA Ames. This is Moffett Airfield. And so that blue section is what we're going to take over. And we're going to develop a large aerospace program and hopefully be able to put a new modern micro nuclear reactor down there for training and teaching. Next slide. I think that should be it. Sorry, it went long. So one is, I want, so I presented a bunch of research that wasn't mine because I want you to think about people that you might collaborate with at Berkeley. I'm in the College of Engineering. If the faculty or the students or whoever finds somebody in public health or chemistry, I'm happy to make those connections. Yesterday we were discussing that there are possibilities of government grants for faculty and Indonesian government grants for faculty and scholars to come and visit international partners. We would be happy to help with that, and I would help facilitate that. That would not require a big MOU. I'm hoping that the students that come and visit us do incredible. We're going to do everything we can to make them ensure that they do incredible stuff. So hopefully LPS would be willing to expand this, and we could start hosting your students at Berkeley in labs that are appropriate to collaborate with you, and we could develop hopefully a long-term collaboration, right? If you look at the big research centers, they're generally 5 years, and then you might get renewed for 5 more. I don't want that. I want to be here in Indonesia for 20, 30 years, right? I want us to be here for the long term. And so with that, I will stop boring you and thank you for your attention. Should I go?
Thank you very much, Dr. Matthew Sherburne, for very nice presentation. Also for very nice the opportunities for us, for the student, so it will like open the gate for the next collaboration. Yeah, thank you so much. Now I'm going to Professor George Anwar. Are willing to give some additional information regarding to Dr. Matthew Sherburne presentation. Time is yours, Professor George Anwar.
Oh, wow, thank you. Hey, Matt, that was really good. Can you hear me? Yeah, no. I think Matt gave quite a bit of a complete presentation. I don't know if you can actually see. I'll share my screen. I think the only thing I'll add is just something that's more historical, which is interesting, even though Matt had stated that we don't have, of course, a pharmaceutical department or thing, but historically, Berkeley does a lot of fundamental research. And then I thought this was actually interesting. Let me share my slide, just 1 or 2 slides. 1 second here. Let me share. Okay. Yeah, so anyway, in addition to what Matt has said, or Dr. Sherburne has mentioned, I just thought, at least in the health sciences, what has come out of Berkeley in the past, way in the past, and then what's been in the present. So as you can see, in 1895, that's actually how nutritional sciences actually started, and it started in Berkeley. And the other aspect that I thought was always curious is, of course, I don't know how it is in Indonesia, but in the US, you can't avoid going to the supermarket and seeing the canned food section without seeing a can of fruit cocktail. And the interesting thing is Berkeley has the patent on the fruit cocktail. So this is just to give you some idea of what are the type of research and what the outcomes are from the universities, which is always fascinating. So as you can see in the 30s, right, vitamin E was discovered, vitamin K, nuclear medicine, flu vaccine, the bovine growth hormone, and so forth, and things like that. These are just a few. So again, you can see the citing on the website that has a huge list of all of these things, and it's not just all nutritional sciences. And then in terms of more the modern time, you can see, right, genes associated with the effects on breast cancers, immunotherapy, and then as Dr. Sherburne has mentioned recently, the treatment of malaria and then the treating of global malaria. And then of course, CRISPR is gene editing. So one of the things, just so that you do realize, even though as an Indonesian, you don't think much as you're going through it and going through the research. As I went through this list, I was actually really, I didn't even know. I didn't know. And in terms of the list, in 2011, it's actually listed on the list is robotics legs. So in some sense, yeah, I'm patting myself in the back, but basically that's a little bit of my contribution. I played a small role in the development of this, the Barkeley lower extremity exoskeleton, which is a robot you wear. Okay, so to give you an idea, of course, my area is in robotics and control, so it has nothing to do with pharmaceuticals. Although I've also done research in terms of microfluidics and so forth, in cell sorting and so forth. But this sort of gives you an idea, okay, that whoever you are, you have the opportunity of doing this in Berkeley. It all depends on who you end up working with. That's the one thing that's exciting about UC Berkeley. As Dr. Sherburne has mentioned, the facilities that we provide, that's really sort of the key. I mean, that's really the essence of a university, is it's a facilitator. And at Berkeley, oh yeah, you can't imagine what the facilities are that is here. So one of the things, of course, in the Berkeley itself, this ecosystem is really well established. I mean, this is one of the ones that a lot have talked about in terms of the advent of innovations. This is just one. There are many now in terms of how it all works, but the triple helix model was around, where there's the involvement of the government, businesses, and university. And Berkeley plays a really good, and provides the intersection and the ecosystem that this is established. So it's like, it's almost unnatural for the innovations to just be there. It's facility. Now, whether it's a guarantee or not, that's a different story. But at least the facility's there, and quite a bit is facilitated to give you the innovation. And just to give you an idea, okay, in terms of these ecosystems, the Indonesians that have come, and that's one reason that Dr. Sherburne do want to target Indonesia as well, is not as if Indonesians are not talented. The Indonesians that do make it to Berkeley, as have been mentioned earlier, in terms of the Berkeley Mafia that has provided the history of Berkeley, even with recent, okay, there's been few successful Indonesians that have come through, and some are even current students. The Sutarja brothers, of course, are the founders of Marvell, which is a huge, successful semiconductor industry. Almost every single cell phone has a Marvell chip in it. So all of you can think of the fact that you could just take out their cell phone from your pocket and realize that there were two Indonesians involved in developing a chip that went into those cell phones. Most people may not know it, but you might. Then there's Dr. Novalia, who's very, very recent, okay? And she's also another developer of another COVID vaccine, okay? This is a COVID vaccine that actually doesn't need the refrigerations like the early ones did, okay? And she's from Malang, I believe, okay? And then Stephanie is actually a current student. She's still a student, but she's already doing molten salt reactor research, which also Dr. Sherburne has sort of mentioned. And then one of the big things that I want to highlight and add, and then that's it, is that in 2017, which is pre-pandemic, okay, that's why we're sort of excited to have these collaborations, try to convince Indonesia to send more and more students, not necessarily to Berkeley, but just send students out, okay, that has these opportunities. But in 2017, we had about 60 Indonesian students in 2017. 3 of those 60s at UC Berkeley were candidates for the university medal. So the university medal, okay, that is something that the university awards to the top scholars not just Indonesian scholars, but top scholars, including US scholars, but all the scholars at UC Berkeley, you become a candidate if you are a top scholar, right, among undergraduates in the school. So 3 out of the 60 Indonesian students were candidates. That year, I think there were 40 candidates in total. So basically, by country, if you look at Indonesia as a country, it at the highest percentage, okay, in terms of foreign students that are medal candidates. So we have very talented students. So all of you that are out there, you should give Berkeley a shot. Anyway, that I know we ran way over time, but that's all I have to add. But if you have any questions in regarding how an Indonesian student survived the Berkeley environment, but we do. And I just want to see more Indonesian students. I want to teach more Indonesian students. There's not enough. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Professor George Anwar, for a very beneficial information. So we are proud as Indonesian because Indonesian students there make many good works with very high quality of research. So thank you for such nice guidance from University of California, Berkeley for Indonesian students. So I heard also that Prof. George Anwar can speak bahasa Indonesia. Is it
Oh,
right?
bisa dong. Saya masih orang Indonesia sih.
Okay, all right, okay.
Okay, that's
So
it.
all the
That's
students here can
about the
ask
extent
him
of it.
using bahasa Indonesia. Yes? Okay.
Ah,
Okay.
nggak tahu ya. Bisa. Well, we'll see.
Okay.
We'll see.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much. Then
It's been a long
it's
time.
time for me to open the question and discussion session. So the participant can ask both to Professor George Anwar and also for Dr. Matthew Sherburne. Please. Okay. Do you have any question? Please raise your hand. Okay. Yes.
Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Afternoon, everyone. I'm Koina, alumni of the bachelor degree from the Pharmacy Faculty of Universitas. According to enrollment and registration, I have tried once in months ago to apply LPD scholarship, and I was failed because of the LPD competitors. Then I changed my direction to get the LOA first, which means the letter of acceptance. My question is, how do I get the LOA from the University of California, Berkeley? How long the process and what's the term and condition if I want to apply the global study?
Thank you for the question. So I just want to confirm the question. So you want the information about how to study there or how to get the scholarship? Yes? At University of California, Berkeley. Yes, is it right?
I think. Yeah, Matt, do you want to take that, or do you want me to sort of address it first?
Yes, maybe you can catch the.
Yeah, I know what the issue is. I think she's asking about the letter of acceptance first, which means you're applying to Berkeley. And this is, yeah, for Indonesian students that are there, I'm actually trying hard. I'm trying very hard to, but that's sort of difficult because it's a policy with LPDP, and I'm trying to convince LPDP that that LPDP should evaluate Indonesian students, and if they have the potential to go overseas, is to then, basically give as if a promissory note that says that if you get accepted, you get the letter. But that's not the situation that is right now. And I know that LPDP, one of it is that if you get the letter of acceptance, they will consider, which is the process here. Now, in terms of Berkeley, I think to get a letter of acceptance, you just have to go through the application process.
Yeah.
Right, Matt? Yeah, it's just to apply. Apply as if you're a student.
So when Akbabaya, everybody actually intensive, and both George and my advice and be able to have a fellow. And so after missions 7 years, one of the things I do for anybody, even I send an email to faculty, and I'm asking the faculty how many new, and the faculty will respond according to what they're funding. Right, so we admit a number of students that we support. Right, so every PhD student in my research group costs me $80,000 a year. And so I have to go get grants or funding from companies, whatnot, to pay that. And so we will not admit more students than we as a faculty can afford to pay for. We are not going to have a student come and not have a home and not have money to eat and pay their rent, right? And so what happens is that really constricts the pool of admit, right? We admit at about maybe a 10% rate. And we admit at that rate because you're very conscious that when you're in the department or when you're in the College of Engineering, we are responsible. We want to make sure that you have funding for 5 years so you finish your PhD and eat the whole time that you're on campus. And so where Singapore has this right is the Singaporean students apply and they're able to upload a letter from, say, A*STAR, their national lab, or DSO, or whatever government agency has awarded them a fellowship. And they apply, they say, I've got the A*STAR fellowship. We can read the letter from A*STAR that affirms they have the fellowship. And then we can look through and we can admit them, right? And as long as they have a reasonable GPA and the letters are reasonably good, we will admit them because they have funding for, like, say, 3 years. Whoever takes them into the group will certainly fund them for year 4 and 5 of their PhD. But without that, knowing that beforehand, you're in the same pool as everybody that doesn't have it. And that is a incredibly competitive. And so I will tell you that the Philippines has the same issue. I had, before COVID, I was working with DOST, Department of Science and Technology, and every other government agency I could get to see in the Philippines to try and switch it. Because they want student to be admitted and then they will evaluate the student for a fellowship. You know, if a student comes from Europe, a student comes from Singapore, China, they all come and we know they have a fellowship. And so George and I talked to everybody that visited Berkeley long and hard that this needs to be switched for your benefit, the students' benefit. So we are attempting to work on it. That's the best we can do. If you want to talk about how you might improve your package, right, to be admitted, I'd be happy to talk to you.
Okay, thank you so much, Prof. George Anwar and also Dr. Matthew Sherburne for very nice response to our students. I think that Yes, I agree with you. That's the best step right now is just finish your bachelor degree, and also, I mean, you get good quality in work, then you can apply for the scholarship given by our government for the first LPDP, as Prof. George Anwar said before, and then you can like choose University of Berkeley, University of California, Berkeley, to pursue your master. Then you can continue your PhD by funding from from University of California, Berkeley, uh, using your high reputation of academic transcript and good quality of works and your thesis, of course. Yes, maybe. Do I have time for the next question, or it's finished? Okay, thank you so much for very incredible speaker, Prof. George Anwar and Dr. Matthew Sherburne. Thank you so much for your calm and for your very nice presentation, and it's very fruitful discussion about scholarship and support from University of California, Berkeley. I'm very proud. I'm very happy join with you today. Thank you so much. So I give back the time to the MC to move to the next session. Okay?
1 second. I apologize for going long, but you should know that faculty members, when they have a captive audience, always go long. Again, if you have questions, and I know my long talk ate into the Q&A session, please send me an email. If there's enough of you, I am happy to set up a Zoom call and talk to a group of you if you have questions. Okay, so if you have questions, reach out and I'll do my best to answer them or figure out an answer for you.
Yeah, you can also always reach out to me, and we can both set it up to have the session.
All right, MC, please.
Okay, thank you very much once again for Dr. Renat Apoteker Deni Rahmat Magister Science, and also to Dr. Matthew and Professor George Anwar. You may be back to your seat. Now, ladies and gentlemen, we would like to express our sincere gratitude to the speakers, partner, and moderator by presenting the certificates. And to present the certificate, kindly we are inviting the Dean of Faculty of Pharmacy, Professor Dr. Apoteker Syamsuddin Magister Biomed, to present the certificates. You are invited to go to the front. For the first, for Dr. Matthew, we welcome you to receive the certificate. Please give kind of a big applause for Dr. Matthew.
I'm going to hijack everything for 1 second. Grassley, come here. I know it's not much, and you probably have not seen her, but without her, this would not have happened. She has been spectacular at making sure I'm where I need to be. I know what I need to be. And so I have a small token, a UC Berkeley College of Engineering face mask. Thank you. I appreciate everything you've done for me.
Once again, thank you, Dr. Matthew, for sharing such good insights with us. And for a second, we welcome Professor George Anwar to come up to the screen to receive the certificates by online.
Oh, wow. Thank you. Oh, thank
The
you.
committee will take the screenshot in 3, 2, 1. Once again, thank you very much, Professor George Anwar, for
Thank
being
you.
the speaker. And up next, ladies and gentlemen, for Bapak Hendianto Komala, we welcome you to come forward to receive the certificate. And kindly, we are inviting the Dean of Faculty of Pharmacy, Professor Dr. Apoteker Syamsuddin, to give the certificate. Once again, thank you very much, Nucleus Pharma, for supporting this event. Up next, for Dr. Renat Apoteker Deni Rahmat Magister Science, we welcome you to come forward and receive the certificate. Please give a round of big applause for our moderator today. Once again, thank you very much, Dr. Renat Apoteker Deni Rahmat Magister Science, for moderating this session. This in-depth talk about University of California, Berkeley seminar is sponsored by Nucleus Pharma. Now, Excellencies, distinguished guest participants, ladies and gentlemen, thank God we have come to the end of the in-depth talk about University of California, Berkeley seminar. On behalf of the committee members and all of the college, we would like to express our utmost gratitude to all of the distinguished guests and also to all speakers and participants for making this event a success. We hope to see all of you to the next seminar. Stay safe and stay healthy. Thank you very much, and wassalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. For all of the participants, you are welcome to come up to the front to have the photo session together with all of the speakers and the distinguished guests.